This is the Atlanta Season 4, Episode 4 review, Light Skinned. With that title alone, it foreshadows the foolery to come. The reoccurring aspect of time is everywhere in this episode. As we follow Ern's family, we get into repressed drama and family feuds because fun. But we do get an Ern focus episode in exchange. This episode opens with Ern heading to his parents' house so they can go to church together. Ern's dad, Raleigh, leaves the house with haste so he can get his self care Sunday going at the mall. On the way to pick up Ern's grandfather and Aunt Jeannie, Gloria mentions stealing her dad from Aunt Jeannie, mentioning that her sister only looks after him so she can collect his pension check. And she's one of those who acts like nobody can even interact with their dad without her supervising and covering. Very interesting dynamic in caretaking. So they pick them up. Aunt Jeannie offers Ern cough drops because that is indeed a meal. I bet they were plain menthol and purse flavored too. This scene itself is so adult, but you ain't grown yet. From Ern questioning why his dad isn't coming with them as well, his aunt judging him for not being married yet, Ern asking to stop for food multiple times, his mom opting to drive her truck rather than his car, not allowing him to drive, his mom greeting and criticizing him within the same breath. You gotta love familial microaggressions, especially from your mom. Like, sheesh. They arrive at church and Gloria just peels out. They barely have the doors closed, and Auntie Jean asks for Ern's help to get Grandpa out the car, but she's gone. Gloria stole her daddy back. What was a carpool to church service turned into a whole heist. It's clear that Gloria had this in mind and set up from the beginning, but Ern and Aunt Jeannie are left like, I'm sorry, what just happened? So Aunt Jeannie and Ern attend service because, Ern has to ask for forgiveness for his sinful child that he has. But all throughout, Aunt Jeannie is questioning the situation, increasingly getting more paranoid. She has a handicap pass. It does not take that long to park. And Ern is pretty much he's in it, but he's completely out of it. Like, I don't want to deal with this. And this is like another tier dynamic when it comes to familial issues. When your aunts and uncles are at it and your mom's at somebody's neck. I mean, you can offer your input, but at the same time, just stay out of it. Like, that is the best advice I could give you. Just listen with you know, a decent ear so you don't get in trouble for not paying attention. But yeah, there's not much he could do in that situation. Ern steps out to call his dad for advice, but Mr. Raleigh is out living his life at the mall before the kids show up. You know, senior hours. I can't even front. I love getting my errands done mad early too, so I felt this fully. Oh, and a random nosy notice moment. The stained glass Jesus was white in the reflection behind Ern after he made the call, but when he looked up for the sympathetic glance, Black Jesus was looking at him. Ern then tries to sneak out of church to go to the studio, allegedly. But Jeannie wasn't falling for it and meets him in the corridor to confront him for trying to sneak out. She decides to go with him because she thinks there's a plan that everyone is onto but her. We cut to the studio session. Shout out to 8 Ball and MJG. Turns out Ern was not lying about meeting out there, after all. Anjini clears the studio, even Gunna, to discuss the family issue, not without complimenting Gunna's earrings. First, Al unfortunately spills the beans. His whole vibe is just like, yo, why did you bring this over here? Essentially. He says he doesn't know anything about what Auntie Glow got going on as far as the whole grandpa heist. And Aunt Jeannie quickly organizes a family phone tree. Call in Uncle Willie. Cat Williams is back. Their sister Pearl and Glow. All of them don't seem too pressed about the situation. Glow kind of plays the background a bit. She gives me the youngest, to be honest, because she was just more so just she's on the phone, she's present, she's there. So you kind of see parallels between her behavior in that moment and Earn, kind of how they're more so reserved and will wait out to see what exactly is going on before responding, reacting, and actually getting down to business. Uncle Willie and Aunt Pearl just go back and forth, indirectly getting at her for all she's done, and essentially coming to terms that it's not really a big deal. Just tell Glow how he takes his meds so she can caretake for the day. Like, just relax. Because they knew Aunt Jeannie was doing too much, and based on Aunt Jeannie's behavior up to this point, they were brushing her off and going about their business. Even deeper than that, when it comes to caretaking, let me tell you, the person who decides to take responsibility for said parent or elder, everyone else is typically hands off and is not receptive, especially if it isn't an emergency. Eh. So even within that scene, it's just kinda like, yeah, that's just how it'd be like sometimes. I'm saying, not even if you're a hyper sensitive person and taking everything how Auntie Jeannie was, but I mean, everybody just kind of had the air of they're there, but they're not really trying to get involved into this squabble that they had going on for years because 'cause it's been building up. Aunt Jeannie continues to lament on the phone conference, grasping for excuses, saying they were always bitter toward her and hated her because she is light skinned. We all proceed to laugh at her at this point because, ma'am, you are not a special snowflake. Have a seat. Jeannie was just getting started because apparently she decides to spill some more family drama about Ernst's grandpa not remembering Gloria, despite him having kids all over Georgia and showing up for the key dates, holidays, birthdays. And in that moment, Gloria hangs up. We don't get complete reasoning as to why Gloria did plan to steal her dad, but it makes more sense in this moment. It becomes more clear. She wants to make sure her pops remembers her and is not making up for lost time, but solidifying her identity with him. Back to Mr. Raleigh. He is on a schedule at the mall, but gets caught up with a hat vendor who is trying to earn that commission for longer than expected. And now the kids are out and the mall is starting to pack up a bit. The hat she did have for him, I will say, was worth the wait because it was nice. But you can see the anxiety creeping up as he's trying to make his way out of the mall. Of course, it's not Atlanta without a kid bothering you. So, a couple kids at the food court start bugging on him with terrible jokes. This part annoyed me deeply because they weren't funny. Like, not to say that, oh, I'd be happy if the jokes were they hit or whatever, but nah, they just missed. And it was just like, yo, you're really bothering him. But again, shining a reflective light on that social medias that y'all love so much, the TikToks of it all. What was a moment for this kid and his little group of friends was not the same type of moment for Mr. Raleigh. Those kids completely blew his high, begging him to take a picture, of course, for social media, being all dramatic, making a scene, and embarrassing him in his fit. He finally agrees to it, reluctantly, but terrible. Kids are so bad. Aunt Jeannie is now speaking to the cops who she called due to Aunt Pearl giving her the inadvertent green light. Like, I wish you would call the cops. Do it. Like, daring her to do it, knowing that she's this dramatic. Like, ma'am, come on now. You knew your sister was going to act like this, but I wasn't even surprised. But what did surprise me in that moment is when Gloria put their dad on the phone with the cops for a tele-wellness check, if you will. He confirms he's not in danger and he's with his daughter, Gloria. But they're also in Egypt and been there for 2 weeks. I low key feel like he said that so they would leave him alone. Sometimes elder people just get fed up and are just like, "Yo, this isn't even worth my time. Get out of my face." But that part was hilarious. And of course, Aunt Jeannie is making a scene like, "See? Egypt? Ma'am, relax. The cops They were patient, I will say that, but to have to deal with this type of call and a remote wellness check, what is happening here? So, Ern and Al are interacting, basically sitting on the couch like the kids that are involved, but they're not in trouble. Think of one of your aunts or uncles or even your parents grilling you about a situation that one of your siblings did, but you're not really trying to hop in to take that stray. Ern mentions to Al he does not want to be like them, arguing all the time. And I will admit, sitting and watching your parents, hell, even your family, you know what aspects are OD, and that's what makes your family unique. Now, there could be instances of toxicity, trauma, and behaviors that are not ideal, but you don't have to be like them. Just have respect. And honestly, continue to spectate and laugh to yourself. That's literally all I do. That's that's my best advice. Let me knock that earlier reference out. Break generational norms. I just like the term generational curses because despite your situation, that's that's literally what made you. And unless you popped out of a cauldron, you know what I mean. Shout out to October. The studio assistant shows Ern and Al the Schmurda exit to sneak out of the studio without Aunt Jeannie spotting them. We got another portal. The only instructions this time was to not look back as they head out of the building. Meanwhile, Aunt Jeannie is outside calling the cops on the cops, asking to speak to their manager, and doesn't notice them at all. It really works. That scene gave me Nope, the movie vibes, and more prevalent, Orpheus and Eurydice, but they may have been referring to the biblical version. Basically, Orpheus, went to hell to save his wife and was told, "Hey, don't look back," but he looked back because nosy, and she disappeared. Boom. Mythology in a minute. The family ends up at Red Lobster eating the early bird special, a before 5 p.m. dinner, but they didn't get any biscuits. The waiter and Gloria go back and forth about getting some to go, and Riley finally snaps, "Get that damn bread." It wasn't about the bread, it's because her daddy wanted it, so she was adamant to make it happen. And there are a few restaurants with fire bread, so forgetting is not an option. I feel you, Glow. Red Lobster biscuits, of course. Texas Roadhouse rolls. Not your average Joe's has some good bread. Carrabba's. Cheesecake Factory's brown baguette bread. And my favorite, Sweetwater, hands down. Clearly, table bread is important, and I put a lot of thought into this. Mr. Raleigh is still tight from the bozo kid at the mall, clearly, ruining his good day. He does not allow Al to cover their meal. Again, adult, but you still ain't grown. He offers to the family to end the night with a Redbox movie rental. When is the last time you saw a Redbox? Grandpa clearly is happy about the situation. He's like, "Yeah." So it's a Redbox night. And scene with Gil Scott and Ron save the children. Another perfect track to tie a bow on this episode. The episode description itself is also worth noting because on point. My family is so crazy. We need our own reality TV show. How you still got beef from the 70s? Woo. And y'all need to stop flirting with people's daddy. Definitely on point, on task, all of the above. But I know some of you listening may have thought that or probably been told that, like, yo, your family's mad interesting. Y'all should have a reality show. Don't do it. Don't do it. I mean, by all means, you want to exploit your family's, shenanigans, go ahead. But it's the all around accuracy for me. It was great to circle back to the family after this long to get more insight on their dynamic and what has remained the same. And it looks like next week we're getting a van episode. Hopefully, she forgets the bread this time. Engage with us. Tap into the Spotify app and check out the poll and Q&A sections. You can also leave your thoughts via Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or verbalvibemode.com. Feel free to leave a voicemail using Anchor. As always, all important links are in the description box. See you next week.